the most powerful man in the city, sat alone at a table meant for two. 1 hour passed. The wine went warm. The whispers grew louder. She wasn't coming. But what happened next? No one in that restaurant was prepared for. Money can buy power. It can buy loyalty. It can even buy silence. But it can't buy love. Tonight, a billionaire learned that the hard way. Welcome to Prime Tale, where powerful men fall, strong women rise, and love appears when it's least expected. If you believe kindness can change destiny, subscribe now, because this story will stay with you. The restaurant was too elegant for heartbreak. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above white linen tables. Soft jazz floated through the air. Every guest dressed like they belonged to money. And at the center of it all sat Adrian Vale. Billionaire, CO, untouchable. At least, that's what the world believed. He checked his watch. 7:45 p.m. She was 15 minutes late. Adrian wasn't a man who waited. People waited for him. Entire boardrooms waited for him. Governments waited for him. But tonight, he waited. The waiter approached carefully. "Another glass of wine, sir?" Adrian forced a polite smile. "Not yet." Across the restaurant, a pair of women whispered behind manicured hands. Near the bar, a man glanced over twice. It was subtle, but it was happening. People were noticing. 8:10 p.m. His phone vibrated. His heart betrayed him, just slightly. He looked down. One message. From her. He opened it. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." That was it. No explanation. No call. No respect. Just 7 words. Adrian stared at the screen as if the message might change. As if more text would appear. It didn't. He placed the phone face down on the table. The second chair across from him remained perfectly empty. Perfectly humiliating. He had closed billion-dollar deals without blinking. Fired executives without emotion. Outmaneuvered competitors twice his age. But this felt different. This felt public. And pride, for a man like Adrian Vale, was everything. He reached for his glass, then stopped. He wasn't thirsty. He was exposed. From across the room, someone had been watching. Her name was Amara. She wasn't dressed in diamonds or silk, just a fitted black uniform. Crisp white collar. Sleeves rolled neatly at the wrists. Her hair framed her face naturally. Confident. Unapologetic. She had noticed the empty chair 30 minutes ago. She had noticed the way his posture changed after reading his phone. She had noticed he hadn't touched his food. Most waitresses would avoid eye contact in situations like this. Embarrassment is contagious. But Amara didn't look away. She walked toward him calmly. Professional. Composed. "Sir," she said gently, "would you like me to refresh your coffee?" Her voice wasn't pitying. It wasn't flirtatious. It was steady. Normal. Adrian looked up. For the first time that evening, someone wasn't pretending not to notice. He studied her face, searching for mockery. He found none. "Sure," he replied quietly. She poured slowly, carefully, not rushing, not staring, just present. "Bad night?" she asked, not boldly, not timidly. Just human. Adrian almost laughed. No one asked him that. People asked about profits, investments, strategy, not about nights. "It seems so," he answered. Amara nodded once. "Sometimes," she said, "the worst nights lead to the most important ones." Adrian raised an eyebrow. "That sounds rehearsed." She smiled slightly. "It's not. I just believe timing has a strange sense of humor." He studied her again. There was something unsettling about how comfortable she was. She didn't know who he was. Did she? Before he could ask, the restaurant entrance doors opened suddenly. A man in a sharp navy suit rushed in, scanning the room. He spotted Adrian and hurried over. "Mr. Vale, the board has been calling you. They're waiting." The entire restaurant shifted. Heads turned. Whispers sharpened. "Mr. Vale." Amara blinked. Her eyes flicked between the two men. Understanding dawned slowly. This wasn't just a man abandoned on a date. This was Adrian Vale, tech magnate, Forbes cover, The man whose company practically owned half the city skyline. She straightened slightly, but something important did not change. Her tone, her eyes, her posture. She didn't suddenly apologize. She didn't bow. She didn't look impressed. She simply said, "Your coffee is fresh," and walked away. Adrian noticed. That was new. Every person in this building would have reacted differently. Shock, excitement, fear, opportunism. But not her. He stood slowly, adjusted his cufflinks, then paused. "Cancel the board meeting," he told his assistant calmly. The assistant froze. "Sir, reschedule it." And then, instead of leaving, Adrian sat back down. The restaurant fell into confused silence. Amara returned minutes later to collect unused plates. "You're still here," she said. "I am." She hesitated. "You know who you are, right?" he asked. She almost laughed. "I'm aware." "And that doesn't change anything?" She looked at him carefully. "You were still left alone tonight." The words weren't cruel. They were honest. And somehow, that honesty hit harder than the text message. Adrian leaned back in his chair. "For the first time in years," he admitted quietly, "someone isn't speaking to me because of what I own." Amara folded her hands loosely. "Maybe," she said, "tonight isn't about what you lost." He tilted his head. "Maybe," she continued, "it's about what you almost missed." A silence stretched between them, not awkward, charged. Outside, rain began tapping softly against the windows. Adrian made a decision he couldn't fully explain. "Sit," he said gently. Amara glanced around. "I'm working." "Take 5 minutes." She hesitated. Then, slowly, she sat in a chair that had been empty all night. The same chair meant for someone else. And somehow it felt right. Neither of them knew it yet. But this was the moment everything changed. Fade out. The rain didn't stop that night. It followed Adrian Vale all the way home. But his mind wasn't on the abandoned date anymore. It was on her. Amara, the only woman in that restaurant who hadn't changed her tone after hearing his name. The only person who looked at him like he was just a man sitting alone. Not a billionaire. Not a headline. Just the man. He replayed the moment she sat in the empty chair. No fear. No strategy. No performance. Just presence. And that unsettled him more than the text message ever could. The next morning, the city buzzed as usual. Stocks fluctuated. Meetings stacked. Assistants whispered. But Adrian wasn't listening. During a board presentation, his CFO paused mid-sentence. "Sir," Adrian blinked. "Continue." But he hadn't heard a word. For the first time in years, a deal worth hundreds of millions felt less urgent than a 5-minute conversation with a waitress. He hated that realization. And yet, by 6:40 p.m., he was standing outside the same restaurant again. He didn't call ahead. He didn't reserve. He simply walked in. The hostess nearly dropped her tablet. "Mr. Vale, your usual private room." "No," he interrupted gently. "I'll sit out here." Her eyes widened. Out here meant visibility, exposure, normalcy. He chose the same table. The same one with the memory of an empty chair. But tonight, something felt different. He wasn't waiting. He was hoping. Across the room, Amara stepped out from the staff hallway, adjusting the cuff of her sleeve. She froze when she saw him. Not dramatically, not theatrically, just a subtle pause. He noticed. Their eyes met. A silent acknowledgement passed between them. He didn't wave. She didn't smile widely. But something shifted. She approached professionally. "Good evening." Her voice steady. Unchanged, Adrian allowed himself the smallest smile. "Am I early this time?" She raised one eyebrow slightly. "That depends. Are you waiting for someone?" He held her gaze. "Yes." A beat passed. She didn't ask who. Instead, she placed a menu in front of him. "Well," she replied calmly, "I hope she shows up." Then she walked away. Adrian leaned back, exhaling slowly. She was careful, measured, not stepping into anything too quickly, and he respected that. But the restaurant wasn't blind. People noticed. Again, a billionaire returning to the same table 2 nights in a row? Whispers traveled faster than waiters. At the bar, 2 women glanced between Adrian and Amara repeatedly. One of the junior managers approached Amara near the service station. You know who that is, right? She didn't look up. Yes. And nothing. The manager frowned. Just be careful. Amara paused. That word again. Careful. Why did everyone assume she needed protection? Or strategy? Or caution? She had grown up in a small apartment with a single mother who worked double shifts. She had paid for her own education. She had survived worse than a powerful man's attention. I'm fine, she answered quietly. Back at the table, Adrian checked his watch. 7:15 p.m. Then footsteps approached. Amara stopped beside him. Your order? He closed the menu without looking at it. Surprise me. Her lips curved slightly. That's dangerous. I've taken bigger risks. A flicker of something passed through her eyes. Curiosity, maybe even amusement. Very well, she said, and walked away again. He watched her go, not in a possessive way, not in an entitled way, just attentive. For the first time in years, he wasn't controlling the outcome of a situation. He didn't know what she would serve. He didn't know how the night would unfold. And strangely, he liked that. An hour later, the atmosphere had softened. Conversations blended into warm noise. Candles flickered. And Adrian realized something unusual. He wasn't checking his phone. Not once. Amara returned with dessert. You didn't ask for this, he noted. No, she replied. But you look like someone who needs something sweet. He almost laughed. You always read people this well. She tilted her head. Only the ones who look like they're pretending. His smile faded slightly. And what am I pretending? She met his eyes fully now. That you don't care. The words landed carefully, not accusatory, just observant. He looked down at the untouched spoon beside the plate. You don't know me, he said quietly. No, she agreed. I don't. Silence. Then she added softly, but I know loneliness when I see it. That did it. That broke through something he had built carefully over decades. Because loneliness was the one thing money never solved. He leaned back slowly. Sit, he said again. She hesitated longer this time. The room felt heavier. Eyes were watching. But eventually, she sat, not fully relaxed, but present. You came back, she said. Yes. Why? He could have given a clever answer, a strategic one, but instead he told the truth. Because you didn't look at me differently. A small silence passed. And what if I start to? She asked. His gaze sharpened. Will you? She studied him carefully. You're used to control, she said. Used to people wanting something. And you don't. She shook her head once. What would I want from you? It wasn't sarcastic. It was genuine. That question lingered between them. He realized something then. She wasn't intimidated, but she wasn't impressed either. She was balanced, and balance was rare in his world. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, tension grew quieter, comfortable, until the restaurant doors opened sharply. A woman stepped in, elegant, poised, familiar. Adrian's jaw tightened almost invisibly. Amara noticed. Do you know her? She asked softly. He didn't answer immediately, because walking toward them was the woman who had sent the message the night before, the one who said she couldn't do this. She stopped at the table. Her eyes flicked to Amara, then back to Adrian. So, she said coolly, this is why you didn't reply. The entire restaurant stilled. Amara slowly removed her hands from the table. The empty chair between them suddenly felt important again. Adrian stood, not defensive, not angry, just composed. You made your decision, he said calmly, and I made mine. The woman's gaze hardened. You're replacing me with a waitress? There it was, the word, waitress, heavy with judgment. Amara stood now too, not shrinking, not flinching, just steady. Adrian's voice dropped low, controlled. No, he said, I'm choosing someone who sees me. Silence exploded across the room. The woman scoffed and turned sharply, heels striking marble as she left. The doors closed, but the tension remained. Amara exhaled slowly. You didn't have to do that. Yes, he replied quietly. I did. Because in that moment, it wasn't about pride. It wasn't about ego. It was about clarity. And for the first time in years, he felt certain about something that wasn't written in a contract. Amara looked at him carefully. You don't know what this means. He nodded. I know. She studied him one last time, then said something that shifted everything again. If you come back tomorrow, it won't be coincidence anymore. He held her gaze. Good. She stepped away, returning to work. But neither of them felt the same as before, because tonight wasn't about humiliation or revenge. It was about choice. And tomorrow would change everything. Fade out. Adrian didn't sleep that night, not because of regret, not because of anger, but because of clarity. For years, his life had been structured like a blueprint. Meetings, acquisitions, expansions, public appearances. Every relationship carefully selected. Every outcome negotiated. Except this one. Amara hadn't asked for anything, and that made her dangerous. Not to his empire, but to his control. The next evening, the restaurant buzzed even louder than usual. Word had spread. People didn't know the full story, but they knew something had happened. Billionaire, public confrontation, Waitress. Stories like that travel fast. Amara tied her apron calmly in the staff room. She ignored the glances, ignored the whispers, ignored the subtle change in how the manager now watched her more closely. She had done nothing wrong, and she wouldn't shrink for existing. At exactly 7 p.m., the doors opened. He was on time. This time, no hesitation, no scanning the room. He walked directly to the same table. The empty chair across from him remained. But tonight, it didn't feel humiliating. It felt intentional. Amara approached, professional as always. You're consistent, she said. I am, he replied, and persistent. That too. She placed a glass of water in front of him. You said yesterday, she began carefully, that if you came back today, it wouldn't be coincidence. It isn't. Her eyes held his. Then what is it? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket, not for a ring, not for a dramatic gesture, for a simple black business card. He placed it gently on the table. Her gaze dropped to it. Vale Industries. CEO Adrian Vale. I already know who you are, she said quietly. This isn't about that. Then what is it about? He leaned forward slightly. Dinner. She blinked once. You're already having dinner. With you? Silence. Heavy. Real. Amara straightened slowly. I'm working. Not tonight. Her jaw tightened slightly. You can't just... I'm not asking you quit, he interrupted gently. I'm asking you to step outside with me. 30 minutes. No cameras. No audience. No whispers. She crossed her arms lightly. And why would I do that? There it was. The question he couldn't answer with money. Because money wasn't the currency here. Because, he said carefully, for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like someone is negotiating with me. The restaurant noise seemed to fade around them. Her expression softened just slightly. And what happens after 30 minutes? She asked. That depends on whether you decide I'm worth a second conversation. The honesty disarmed her. He wasn't commanding. He wasn't buying. He was offering. And that was new. Behind her, the manager cleared his throat. A warning. A reminder. Amara glanced back briefly, then returned her gaze to Adrian. You're used to getting what you want. Yes. And what if I say no? He held her eyes without blinking. Then I'll respect it. No hesitation. No arrogance. Just certainty. That was unexpected. 5 minutes later, Amara removed her apron. Gas followed her path toward the exit. Adrian stood as she approached. No smirk. No victory expression. Just acknowledgement. Outside, the air was cool and fresh. The city lights reflected off wet pavement from a previous night's rain. They stood side by side on the sidewalk, not touching, not performing, just two people outside the roles they were assigned. "You understand," she began slowly, "that this is complicated." "I do. Your world is my world." "True. And people talk. They already are." She exhaled. "And that doesn't bother you?" He looked at her, really looked at her. "It bothers me that you might be affected." That shifted something, because most powerful men protected themselves first. He wasn't doing that. "You don't even know me," she said softly. "I know enough." "And what's that?" "You didn't treat me like a headline." A car passed, headlights briefly illuminating them. She studied him in silence, trying to decide if this was impulse or intention. "Why me?" she finally asked. He answered without pause. "Because you didn't need me." That was the truth, and they both felt it. Across the street, unnoticed, someone stood watching, phone raised, camera recording. The world Adrian lived in didn't allow privacy, especially not vulnerability. But neither of them knew that yet. They walked slowly down the block. No security, no assistance, no spectacle, just conversation. He told her about growing up with nothing but ambition, about building everything from risk. She told him about growing up with resilience instead of resources, about learning early that independence was survival. Their worlds were different, but their hunger? Similar. At the corner of the street, she stopped. "This is far enough," she said gently. "Afraid?" he asked. "No," she replied. "Careful." He nodded once. "I respect that." She looked at him carefully. "If we do this," she said, "it won't be for attention. It won't be secret either. And it won't be something you control." His lips curved slightly. "You assume I want control. You're a CEO. Fair." A pause. Then she extended her hand. Not romantically. Formally. 30 minutes, she said. He looked at her hand and shook it. 30 minutes. But neither of them realized that someone else had just captured the moment. And by morning, everything would change. Fade out. By morning, the city had already decided who Amara was. She just didn't know it yet. At 6:12 a.m., Adrian's phone started vibrating. Not once, not twice, constantly. Notifications stacked like falling dominoes. His PR director called first. "Sir, there's a situation." Adrian was already sitting up in bed. "What kind of situation?" A pause. "The internet kind." He didn't need more explanation. His assistant sent the link. There it was. A grainy video taken from across the street. Him, standing outside the restaurant, talking to Amara, walking with her, shaking her hand. The caption read, "Billionaire CEO rebounds with Waitress hours after being dumped." The comments were worse. "Gold digger alert." That didn't take long. She saw an opportunity. He downgraded fast. Adrian's jaw tightened, not because of himself, but because he knew what this meant. For her. Across town, Amara's morning started peacefully. Coffee brewing, sunlight through thin curtains. Her phone rested face down on the kitchen counter. She didn't rush for it. She wasn't someone who lived in notifications. That changed at 6:47 a.m. Her younger cousin burst into the apartment, eyes wide. "Amara, what did you do?" She frowned slightly. "What are you talking about?" Her cousin turned the phone around. The video played automatically. Amara watched silently. No panic, no dramatics, just observation. She read the comments carefully. Each assumption, each insult, each narrative written about her by strangers. Then she placed the phone down calmly. "They don't know me," she said quietly. But the world didn't need to know her. It just needed a story. By noon, Vail Industries' stock dipped slightly. Not catastrophic, but noticeable. Board members demanded explanation. Adrian sat at the head of the table, expression unreadable. "It's optics," one executive argued. "You can't be seen casually involved with staff from random establishments." "She's not staff from my company," Adrian replied evenly. That's not the point, another added. Perception matters. He leaned back slowly. And what exactly is a perception? Silence. No one wanted to say it directly, so he did. That she's beneath me? The room stiffened. No one answered, because that was exactly what they meant. At the restaurant, the energy was worse. Amara walked in and felt it immediately. The glances weren't subtle anymore. They were sharp, judging. The manager pulled her aside within minutes. I need to ask you something. She waited calmly. Are you involved with Mr. Vale? Involved how? She asked evenly. You know what I mean. She held his gaze. No, because this attention, it's affecting the business. She nodded once. I understand. He hesitated. You may want to distance yourself. There was again. Distance. Careful. Protect yourself. Protect the brand. Protect everything except dignity. She tied her apron slowly. I'm here to work, she said, and that's what I'll do. That evening, Adrian returned. But this time, cameras waited outside. Flashes, whispers, speculation. He ignored all of it, walked inside like he owned the ground beneath him, because technically he owned half the block. Amara saw him enter. Their eyes met, the weight between them heavier now. He sat. She approached, professional, but aware. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. Why? You saw the headlines. Yes. And they're wrong. She inhaled slowly. It doesn't matter if they're wrong. He studied her expression carefully. They're attacking you, he said quietly. I've survived worse than strangers online. He almost believed her. Almost. But then he saw it. The tightness in her shoulders. The controlled breathing. She wasn't unaffected. She was disciplined, and that made him respect her more. I can make this stop, he said calmly. How? A statement, a narrative shift, clarification. She shook her head. That would make it bigger. Then what do you suggest? Her eyes softened slightly. Do nothing. He frowned. You're a powerful man. If you react, it becomes a battle. If you stay silent, it becomes boring. He leaned back slowly. And what about you? I didn't do anything wrong. Her voice didn't shake. And I won't act like I did. That answer did something to him. Because most people in his world manage perception first. She was managing self-respect. Outside, cameras kept flashing. Inside, tension thickened. Walk away now, she said quietly, before this becomes something else. Something else like what? She held his gaze. Like feelings. Silence. He didn't joke. Didn't deflect. Is that what you're afraid of? She didn't answer. Because yes. That was exactly what she was afraid of. Not the headlines. Not the gossip. Not the class difference. But the possibility that this wasn't temporary. And temporary things are easier to survive. Real ones aren't. Suddenly, the restaurant doors burst open again. But this time, not an ex. Not a jealous rival. Reporters. Microphones raised. Mr. Vale, is she your new girlfriend? Miss, did you plan this for attention? Is this a publicity stunt? The room erupted into chaos. Managers shouting. Guests recording. Amara stepped back instinctively. Adrian stood immediately. Protective. Controlled. One reporter shoved a microphone closer. Sir, are you dating your waitress? The word again. Waitress. Like it defined her entirely. Adrian looked directly into the nearest camera, then said something no one expected. She's not my waitress. Silence dropped. She's someone I respect. Flashbulbs exploded. And with that sentence, he changed the narrative. But he also escalated it, because now it wasn't rumor. It was public acknowledgement. Amara looked at him stunned, not by the chaos, but by the certainty in his voice. Security finally cleared the entrance. Reporters pushed back outside. The doors closed. The restaurant trembled in silence. She turned to him slowly. You just made this impossible. He met her gaze. No, he replied quietly. I made it honest. But honesty in his world came with consequences. And tomorrow, the consequences would arrive. Fade out. The boardroom at Vail Industries had never felt hostile until today. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooked the skyline Adrian built piece by piece. Every building in sight carried his influence. His decisions shaped markets, shifted economies. But right now, he was being questioned. Not about numbers, not about growth, about her. 12 executives sat around the polished table, none smiling, none relaxed. The chairman folded his hands slowly. Adrian, he began carefully, this situation is escalating. It's already escalated, Adrian replied calmly. A screen lit up behind them. Headlines, clips, the viral video now viewed over 3 million times. A still image of him standing beside Amara outside the restaurant. The caption beneath it, "From billionaire to waitress, what is he thinking?" The undertone was clear. She didn't belong in his world. And they believed that narrative was dangerous. It's affecting investor confidence, the CFO said. A temporary dip, Adrian responded. That's not the point. Another executive cut in. Image stability is everything. Stability. Translation. Predictability. And nothing about Amara was predictable. The chairman leaned forward slightly. We need a public clarification. Adrian's eyes sharpened. What kind of clarification? That there is no personal involvement. Silence. Controlled. Intentional. He didn't react immediately. He let the weight of that statement sit in the air. And if I don't, he asked evenly. The room stiffened. You understand your responsibilities, the chairman said. This company is bigger than one distraction. There it was. Distraction. That's what they were reducing her to. Adrian leaned back slowly. She's not a distraction. With respect, the CFO replied, the public doesn't see it that way. And since when, Adrian said quietly, do we let the public dictate personal decisions? When personal decisions affect the corporation, the air thickened. For the first time in years, Adrian felt something unfamiliar in this room. Opposition. Real opposition. You're asking me to lie, he said. We're asking you to protect the company. At what cost? That question didn't need to be spoken. Everyone in the room knew the answer. Across town, Amara was finishing her shift early. Not by choice. The manager approached her carefully. Corporate has been calling, he said. She nodded once. I figured. This attention, it's overwhelming the staff. I understand. He hesitated. I need to reduce your hours temporarily. There it was. The consequence. Not because she failed. Not because she was unprofessional, but because she existed near power. She untied her apron slowly. Temporary, she repeated. Yes. She didn't argue, didn't beg, didn't plead. She simply folded the apron neatly and placed it on the counter. Thank you for the opportunity, she said. The manager looked uncomfortable. This isn't personal. It never is, she replied softly. That evening, Adrian stood alone in his penthouse. The city glittered beneath him. His phone buzzed again. Another article, another opinion, another judgment about a woman they didn't know. He dialed her number. She answered on the third ring. Yes. Her voice steady, but quieter than usual. I heard, he said. About what? Your hours. A pause. So you're monitoring my life now? She asked lightly. No, just silence. Then he exhaled. They're pressuring me to deny everything. And will you? He didn't answer immediately, because the truth mattered now more than ever. They want a statement saying there's nothing between us. Another pause. And is there? She asked. That question landed differently now. Before it was playful. Now it was serious. There could be, he said honestly. Her breathing shifted slightly. That's not an answer. You want one? Yes. He walked toward the window, looked down at the city. He commanded, then said something he had never said to anyone in his corporate circle. I don't want to protect my image at the cost of something real. Silence filled the line. Heavy, careful. I built everything from nothing. And you'd risk it? For honesty? Yes. The air between them felt different now. More fragile. More real. You don't owe me that, she said quietly. I'm not doing it because I owe you. Then why? He closed his eyes briefly. Because I'm tired of choosing what looks right over what feels right. Silence again. Then she said something unexpected. If you make that statement, if you refuse them, yes. Don't do it for me. For who then? For yourself. The line went quiet. Because she understood something most people didn't. If he sacrificed his image for her alone, resentment could grow. But if he chose himself, then whatever came next would be solid. He ended the call without another word. Not cold, not distant, just thoughtful. The next morning, Vail Industries scheduled a live press conference. The board expected compliance. Investors expected reassurance. The media expected damage control. Cameras flashed as Adrian stepped to the podium. Perfect suit, perfect posture, perfect control. The chairman stood off to the side, watching carefully. A reporter shouted first, "Mr. Vail, are you here to deny the rumors?" He paused deliberately. It was two adults having a conversation. Another flash of cameras. And if that conversation leads somewhere meaningful, I won't apologize for it. The room exploded. Reporters shouting. Executives frozen. Stocks would react. Behind the cameras, the chairman stepped forward sharply. "Adrian, we need to talk. Now." Fade out. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe for more Billionaire love story.